Man, that's illegal. USA. USA. Okay, it's like Home Alone in high school. Well, at least one Rick died this week. Man, she got blown up. Man, I bet he didn't see that. Oh.
This is
Well,
not a test.
I guess I'll
This
just
is
stop
your
now.
emergency-
Okay, guys. Okay, I digress. That was just me having a little bit of fun with this. I think that we should talk about the last episode of season 1, apparently, of The Purge. Let's talk about it. Hey, YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. Okay, so this episode, unlike all the rest of the episodes this season, has been fairly self-contained. And I think one of the reasons for that is because the last, episode or two have been doing the best they can to play off of these characters actually meeting one another and being forced together in a situation that they had to overcome. And obviously, they decided the best way to actually do that was with Joe taking advantage of the purge and deciding to purge, cleanse himself as an American, taking all of these different people who he believes have wronged him throughout the entirety of his life, or at least very recently until he felt like he was financially ruined after Rick and Jenna really just snuffed him out of all the work he did on one of their recent projects. He has gathered everyone together, and that's where we start. Him going into this abandoned high school. I believe it's abandoned. Tell me in the comment section below whether I'm just completely misremembering that from last week's episode. But I believe Pete the cop said it was abandoned last week, which, where it ends with Penelope and Joe and Miguel. It's weird. Like, why would an abandoned school have a completely filled up pool? That just didn't really make any sense to me, and it actually ended up being a huge plot point later down the episode. So tell me in the comment section below what you think about that. But anyway, we have Joe going into this abandoned school, setting up all of his traps and all of the things that play a pivotal part in not only him gathering everyone together, but also how this episode's going to play out. We'll get back to Joe because I think that was still probably the most interesting thing about this episode, but I'm going to go, like I always do, to the Miguel story. Him and Pete the cop having to escape Rex and all the people from the Carnival of Flesh. First of all, and I said this last week, why are we even still at the Carnival of Flesh, people? Why is this even still a thing? I understand you're trying to make these characters relevant. You're trying to give Miguel and Pete the cop something to do until they get directly to Joe and start having to fight him and everything else. But I feel like that screen time would have been better served for them going through all of this guy's traps. You've done a decent job this entire season building up Joe as this crazy right-wing, just insane terrorist guy. He is just completely bought into his own fantasy of what the world is actually like and what it actually owes him. So it would have been actually more interesting, at least in my opinion, to have Pete and Miguel go into the school and have to dodge and do all this other stuff. He is literally decked out this entire school with booby traps, and they have to really go through one obstacle to another. But no, they decide to have Rex come back from the Carnival of Flesh with those people and trying to collect Miguel for a bounty, which is weird because this is the only episode this season where they've been really counting down the end of the Purge. And I realize that you're trying to make the ending of the Purge a main plot point for the ending of the episode, but it's just a little weird to me. Like, that should have been something you do throughout the entire season. It just kind of felt out of place for this one, and I feel like if you're going to do a season 2, which they are, they need to do that throughout the entire season. Just make that lasting feature throughout the entire season, because it gives us an idea of where we are at the night. And since you're already doing basically 10, or maybe you're going to up it to 12 episodes or something, treating every single episode like an hour because there's a 12-hour purge, I think that would be pretty interesting. But let's get back onto track. Yes, Rex, the Carnival of Flesh guys, not very interesting, didn't really add a whole lot to this episode, which I felt was kind of a waste. I mean, I like the idea of Miguel and Pete going up against these heavily armed guys and having to outsmart them, but they basically take them out really quickly and then just go on to the next thing like it's absolutely nothing. So yeah, like, not really a big issue in this entire episode or this entire season. Like I've said throughout this entire season and all of these review discussions that I've done, Miguel's story has been interesting. The actors themselves in every given scene have been adequate, if not amazing, but the writing itself has just been subpar. I wish that they had been given better material to go off of, because the idea of just taking all of these elements from the Purge night and trying to stuff them into a 10-hour television series, while it sounds good on paper, as a fan of the entire franchise, it sounds amazing and I want to explore it more in future seasons of this show. But one of the things I realized is it just can't really suffice. You don't have the budget to really express the whole Carnival of Flesh or any other thing that they try to do with Miguel. And they didn't even have the time to depict that along with all the other character drama throughout this entire season. So yeah, in retrospective, the entire season, that was the biggest letdown episode by episode. But the one reason it's a saving grace here is because they didn't have a whole lot to work with. They had to connect all these characters and they had to put it in a very central location with everyone basically operating feet or at least 100 or so feet away from each other. So it worked. It was fine. I enjoyed it for what it was worth, but Miguel's character throughout this entire season, not any fault of his own. Like, it's just the weakest writing and the weakest story of this show. So hopefully if they expand on these characters in season 2, it gets better. But let's get to the stronger parts of this season. As I went, and I think I just gloated and really went into detail about how much I absolutely loved Joe and everything that they were doing with his character last episode. They continue it almost to a T. I mean, I like the fact that this guy has so much respect for the laws of the land. He feels like a real patriot in this episode, believing that it is his right to purge, believing in all the stuff that he has put himself up to this entire night, knowing that he's tracked down every single one of these characters and put them in this trap-laden high school that he is booby-trapped the entire way. Awesome. Like, this guy's character to me is realistic. This is the type of crazy nut job that would just thrive on the Purge, and it's one of the things that I feel like I can't express enough. If you're going to watch this show, obviously if you're watching this, maybe you've watched the entire season, or maybe you haven't, maybe you've just stumbled onto it, but his character, watching it for him, seeing the progression, seeing how they really break it down, especially so quickly, definitely worth the watch, and one of the reasons you should absolutely pick it up if you haven't already. But with that being said, the flashbacks between him and Rick felt genuine, and I felt kind of more aligned with what Joe was actually about. And that's one of the reasons I think he's one of the best characters in the entire franchise thus far, not just the television series, but also the film franchises, because when he's on screen and when he's supposed to be a relatable red-blooded American, I like him. You know, he seems like a guy I'd want to have a beer with, the same way that Rick actually has a beer with him. It's like, hey, this guy seems really nice. He's really approachable, relatable, hardworking American trying to make ends meet, very honest about his living situation and what he wants from his future. I mean, it's just an interesting character, plays to a complete perfection. But when you see what that actually becomes and what that translates to when he has no filter in a night, or at least in an environment where he can do whatever he wants and believes that he's entitled to so much, it works. And it continues to work in this episode. So he puts everybody on trial. He's still doing that. He puts Rick and Jenna on trial, and we realize that Rick, after confessing, he did screw Joe over, which was just the most obvious thing after watching this entire season. We knew that Rick wasn't really the happy-go-lucky guy from the last couple episodes, right? They did try to build him up as someone who was so concerned about his own wealth and his own family's future that he was willing to screw other people over. And maybe it's not the same way that Lila was telling Jenna about. He wasn't willing to purge people for that, but he was definitely willing to step on the little guy to make sure that they made ends meet. So totally makes sense. I like what they did with Rick, and pretty much as everyone probably suspected by that point onward, Rick wasn't going to make it to the very end of this season, and he didn't. I mean, he died in a shootout with people from Carnival of Flesh, and that was okay, but kind of anticlimactic. I mean, he just simply dies, and then at that point, everyone just kind of forgets about it. Penelope ends up escaping the prison, running away, making sure that everyone is freed from that situation, ends up in a final confrontation with Joe and tells him all of his faults, that none of this is going to be cathartic for him. It's not going to cure him in any real way. And then it ends up being her, Miguel, and him at the very end until the purge alarms sound and the purge is over. Miguel shoots Joe, throws him into the pool, which, like I said at the beginning of the video, seems to be a major plot point. Like, the pool was actually filled up, but wasn't this supposed to be an abandoned school? It's just a little weird to me. So yeah, that ends up happening. Pete ends up covering for Miguel. He killed Joe before the siren sounded, and everything that he did was legal. The three things I want to talk about from the ending of this episode and the ending of this season is that Jenna is actually in Paris at this point. It seems like the EU is at least talking about having some kind of a purge or purge-like initiative going on in the EU that would allow them to be more like America. She promises Rick that she's going to get out of America. He's not shown anywhere else in the future of this season, so I obviously think he died there, give or take. I'm not really sure. I mean, they could always bring him back in the future if that's really what they want to do, but it would undercut the emotional weight of him dying. And it also makes me wonder, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do there. I don't know how they're going to build this in the future, but weren't like French people coming over, or was it Russian people coming over in Purge election year to actually take part of the Purge? So if there is an EU over there that actually is doing the Purge at this point, because this season told us that this Purge night took place between the first and the second movie. So the Purge and the Purge Anarchy, and at the ending of this television show, it's at least the same purge as the Purge Anarchy, and then there's a couple of years, or at least a year or something, between the Purge Anarchy to the Purge election year where they actually get rid of the Purge and the third movie. So maybe the EU hasn't decided that yet, but why would Russian people, if the EU had decided to actually do a purge-like thing, go all the way to America in order to purge during Purge night? So that's a huge question in my mind. Tell me in the comment section below what you think about that. And on the other hand, we also have the Miguel and Penelope story going out and trying to save people throughout Purge night and purging people who they believe need to be purged. I'm not really sure. That wasn't really vastly explained, but I'm just kind of believing that they're trying to help people any way that they actually can. So that's what they're doing. Maybe, if I was doing this, I would have had them have some connection with the women that were helping Jane throughout the beginning of the season, because they kind of came and went, and they teased them coming to David's party where they were coming to actually save Jane before Joe shows up and saves her. So yeah, like that kind of was thrown up in the air and then just completely forgotten about until it came down and broke every way. Yes, it's a cool idea, but when you're going to introduce it and do nothing with it and have no real payoff for it, especially when you tease it at the very end of the episode where Jane is taken away by Joe, like these women are going to come back and help her later down the line or something like that, they just didn't do anything with that. Maybe if Miguel and Penelope were actually working with them, then that would be fine. The Matron Saints, that's what they were called. And I think the last thing I have to say about this episode that I'm actually legitimately shocked about is they killed Jane. Amanda Warren, who I've been saying over the last couple weeks has not only been given the best dialogue, but has actually elevated this show to must-watch television with her performance. It's just breathtaking, genuinely amazing. And they killed her last week. I didn't think they actually killed her. I didn't think that they were going to go that route and somehow she faked her death or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, they killed her. They let her die, at least from what I saw from this episode. So that was genuinely shocking. I wasn't anticipating that at all. And I even said that in my last week's review, that I thought that she actually got away with it and she was going to be okay at the end of the day. But that's not how it actually ended up shaking up. So I'm shocked. Anyway, guys, there's going to be a season 2 of this show. I can't wait. I'm going to do another video talking about it sometime in the near future, because obviously this one has gone a bit long. There's just a whole lot to talk about when it comes to this episode. Very well self-contained, but just so much to break down, just genuine thoughts of where this season went, character progression and otherwise, and what it means to the broader universe of The Purge. So guys, what are your thoughts on this 10 episode event Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Will you come back for the second season? Do you want these characters to return? Or, anything else that you want to talk about in the comment section below. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's been real.